Dr. Orji Ogbonnaya Orji is with me right here at the table. He's Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. That's what NEITI means. Welcome to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Nancy, and it's nice. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, let's get started. Congratulations. My congratulations is like 1 year late. But,
thank
you know, we've said that before.
Thank you. I acknowledge that.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's like 1 year in the saddle, or 1 year and some months into the saddle. After you assumed the position of the Executive Secretary, I think about 4 or 5 months later, you got a board.
Yes.
You know. So just speak to me about what NEITI really does, really, especially for those, I think let's start from there, especially for those that are just getting to know about NEITI today, you know, because they may not, what's NEITI and what is your role? Just very briefly before we move into the cocoa of the matter.
Well, I think a report done globally following a conference on world development held in Johannesburg, South Africa in 2003, organized by the then Prime Minister of UK, Tony Blair, came to a conclusion that resource costs, that's a situation where countries blessed with oil, gas and mining and their population live in abject poverty, can be resolved if there is openness and transparency in the management of revenues from oil, gas and mining in those countries. So that report convened another conference at Lancaster House in London, early 2004, where all major producing countries, oil, gas and mining countries that are rich in oil, gas and mining, were assembled. And the argument there was, how do you open up the sector for transparency and accountability to give the citizens a say in the management of the extractive industry, believing that coalition of civil society that's represented by the citizens represented by the civil society, and the companies and the government coming together at a table to discuss, dialogue, and constructively engage themselves on how to manage oil and gas and solid mineral assets in the respective countries could push the boundaries of opaqueness, open up the sector for transparency and accountability. And I remember our then president at that time, President Obasanjo, was just implementing the National Economic Empowerment Strategy leads. So he himself was also attending that conference. And an agreement was reached for these countries to come together and form what we call the Global Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. Nigeria signed up to that global initiative in 2004, began implementation that same year, but became the first country to support it with a specific law in 2007. Our job is simple. We look at what companies have paid to government, and we look at what government has received in a given year. We establish if government received what it ought to receive, and if companies pay what they should pay. And what did we use the money for? Yes,
those are 3 things.
Yeah, so by the time you do this in an independent manner, working with what we call independent administrators, that's what primarily people refer to as auditors, who will go through this process. You now produce a report that most times used to marvel a lot of
Yes,
Nigerians.
it's at the point of the reports that NEITI just comes up, hey, everybody will start crying, oh, no. Okay, you've just said 3 things, and let's go in from there.
Yeah.
So in other words, I hope that those listening have been able to understand what NEITI does, the management, transparency, and accountability of our natural resources.
Yes, in simple terms, enthroning transparency and accountability in the oil, gas, and mining sector is our job.
Yes.
And oil and gas mining sector involves the oil and gas that we know industry, involves the solid mineral sector, and then all other natural resources, including forestry, agriculture, fishery. But we're moving from one stage. We started with oil and gas. We're now into both oil and gas and solid minerals. We're gradually moving into environment. We're moving into fishery. We're moving into agriculture. They're all natural resources.
Yes, they are. Yeah, it's just that we've concentrated so much.
Yes, for now,
Yes.
we just move on oil, gas, and mining.
Yes. Okay, so 3 things. Companies' payments to government, then government receiving what company says they've paid.
Exactly.
Then the government management of the money they've gotten. Out of all
Precisely.
those 3, where do you see the missing link? Or where has NEITI been receiving, I don't want to say more backlash, you know, or where is the problem?
Well,
Before we delve into
the problem is more on the process of the transactions.
between the companies, IOCs
From
and
point of payment, what is
Okay.
the process that if the process that underpin the point of payment to the point of receipt is open, transparent, and accountable, there won't be any problem.
Yes, I get you.
So the process is the issue. But if there is no procedure, no process, no open and accountable and transparent process from point of payment, you discover that what is paid and what is received will never match.
So what exactly is wrong with the process?
Well, the process has to look at the institutional and governance procedure you put in place. It has to look at the legal framework that is in place. Is it followed? It has to look at the human management procedure, the individuals managing the process. Are they putting their interest over and above the interests of the institutions they represent? So those are it's just putting. Now look at it this way. If, for instance, Shell Petroleum said, "Oh, we paid $1 million." The work of NEITI is to ask which of the government agencies did you pay to. Is it if these taxes? Well, we have to know that it went to FIRS. So we go to FIRS to say, from the records we have, Shell paid $1 million. What did you receive? In the job we've done in the last 17 years, sometimes agencies receive more than what is paid, and sometimes they receive less, and then this all borders on process. If you receive more, there's no record keeping. Probably you were just speculating. It has happened, where they receive less or they receive more. But in the
Is it not a simple accounting process or something?
It's not as
simple as it should be.
It's not as simple as it, because what we do is we design suits of templates.
Okay, I was coming to
and
that.
when we design these templates are like sets of questionnaires that we design. And then we share these questionnaires with the companies and the government agencies. And these questionnaires we call templates. They ask specific questions that are peculiar to the mode of operation of the respective company, include that tracks the revenue streams of the various, if it's PPT, if it's VAT, if it's withholding tax, if it's royalty, they are crafted within that way. So by the time we share this, we convene what we call template workshop, where the agencies come and look at the design templates and make comments and amendments. But by the time you finish answering the questions that NEITI would have designed in that template, there's hardly any information that will be left around. And by the time companies supply this information to us, the company's response to that information will be in terms of payment, and then the government agencies will be in terms of receipt. We convene what we call validation meeting to find out what was received and what was paid. And then at that validation meeting, that's where the fireworks starts.
That's where the blow will start.
So by the time we finish and then publish our reports, we do not publish reports that agencies do not sign. You that made claims of payment or evidence of payment, and you that produced evidence or receipt would have agreed, and you sign off on that report. So any report that NEITI releases like this is a product of both agencies and the company's agreements or disagreements. But their signatures will be there. So that's why nobody contests NEITI report. It's more technical than, but we have in NEITI experts in the geosciences, and geophysics, energy finance, and oil and gas, geophysics and management issues that handle track this. But we also work with experts in the international development community, and we work with independent administrators, most of whom we have tried to build their capacity as indigenous companies. So it's much more agencies and company collaboration. The civil society role in the whole process is to now look at the report and look at the issues we have raised and take that report to hold companies and government accountable as may be desirable. So the last report we just released was on the
oil and gas. 2020, I was coming to that.
Yes, and then also 2020 in the solid minerals. So
let's delve in. The oil and gas report which we have, 2020. In fact, why 2020? We're in 2022. Is it because of COVID?
Yeah, partly that, but the EITI process allows you 2 years gap to make sure that all the sufficient information would have come in. Because we'll make sure that the audited financial statement of all the companies would have been ready before we come in. So all the, for now, we are in very, very good standing. We've just commenced the process for 2021.
Okay, so chew and perhaps vomit it well, so that people can understand, and let's make it as basic as possible. Your 2020 report, when I went through it, startling figures for me, because I'm a figures woman here on the show. Startling figures, but explain as simple as possible.
Well, we provide this information and data because you can't plan without facts. The report we've just released has information on total oil production for 2020, what we got, not the one stolen. 646 million barrels for 2020. Every Nigerian needs to know this is what we produced. We're not talking of those that are imported, exported, refined, but this is the total production for 2020. We need to have that information. Before NEITI came, that information will probably be available, but at the exclusive preserve of the field. Now it's open, it's on our website. Total revenues earned from that production, $20.43 billion. Dollars, yes. And then the revenue reconciliation, total amount of oil and gas receipts paid into the Federation account, we have that information, $14.7 billion. We also do a comparative analysis of what happened last year and what happened this year to make a projection of what possible will be in the future. So we have 10-year total trend analysis, 5-year trend analysis, and then all these are contained in our report. We simplified this report in such a format that it will be very easy. Even if you have figure you are able to understand it. But the figures alone will not speak to you on the aspects of our work that builds our work with humanity. When you look at these figures, it just flies in the eyes, and you probably, what $20.4 billion can do. We are more interested on how these incomes that come to the Federation are managed. How do we deploy this money for purposes of national planning to reduce our budget, to support our budget, annual budgets, reduce our budget deficit, reduce our capability to borrow, deploy this money to building roads, water, electricity, providing security, providing jobs for the citizens, and making sure that those who in one way or the other have responsibility to manage these funds are held accountable. That's where the whole, and that is the area we call remediation. The remedy. How do you employ these resources to be able to support our national development and reduce poverty?
And I think that's why many Nigerians should be interested in discussions like this. Because even as we enter the political season, we will see a lot of leaders coming to say, okay, I will do this, I will do that. The right questions should be asked. Do you even know how much we made? Let alone, if you're in government, what did you do with certain amount that was allocated to you? So this is why this is really, really important. Now, in that report, this same report, at the time you said 77 companies owed the federal government trillions of naira, I think about 2.6 trillion naira. I don't know if there's an update on that.
Yes.
Data I saw 55, I saw 51.
No, 6 point, the total indebtedness company liabilities was in the neighborhood of $6.6 billion. And if you convert in naira, I mean, we have the figures there. But this came in form of findings for our 2019 report. we discovered from that report, because when we're also asking of company payments and government receipts, there are companies that won't pay. And we have those records, we track those records. There are 77 of those companies. As at close of business, 31st of March, 2020. Those were disclosures from 2019 report, but as at March 2020, they hadn't paid. As at the close of business, 31st of December 2020, they hadn't paid. So that's why when we flagged it, and by 2021, when we made this disclosure public for the first time, we felt this information can no longer be managed, because before you say, oh, you have this information, we do not want to be seen to be hurting the companies, because without the companies, actually, there will be no industry. We don't want to be hurting these companies. We want these companies to behave responsibly. But we ran out of patience. So, and we expected that companies seem to think that, oh, because this is Nigeria, maybe everything, because it can't happen in any other jurisdiction. So we flagged this up, and we are very happy with the instant response that we got. Most of them that are very corporate citizens in terms of corporate respect rushed in to begin to pay, because it cuts across both foreign and indigenous companies. And by the time we released our 2020 report, the figure had dropped from $6-point-something billion to $3-point-something. And the number of companies has reduced from 77 to 51.
51, okay, and so that's what's reflected in this
the current
2020
report. Yes. And that's why immediately that information became in the public domain. The House of Representatives rose to public outcry and summoned a public hearing where all the companies were summoned to Abuja, and NEITI was also asked to come and show proof. We were there, and we did our best to make sure that we didn't embarrass anybody. But what was at stake was that some money was missing. Some money needs to be recovered. At the time like this, Nigeria needs the money. And that's the point I made very clear, that we're not here to chase away business. We're saying, do business in the country as you do in other jurisdictions. Pay us your tax, pay your royalty. Taxes go to FIRS. It doesn't come to NEITI. The royalty and it go to the defunct DP are now part of the commissions and the authority. So pay to those who should collect this money, because when you pay to FIRS, FIRS will remit to government. We pay to any of these commissions or the authority, they remit to government. NEITI does not collect, NEITI does not warehouse, NEITI does not generate revenue. We depend on government for our operations. But for government to be in a position to fund our operations, they must be funded too. So we use our report currently to support government's effort at revenue generation. But we are also very strong in making sure that revenues that comes to government are accounted for. It's very important. It's very important. So the public hearing has ended. It was held on the 15th of March. It was a week-long public hearing. And all the companies that appeared on our report were invited, were summoned, and we commend the House for that very, very painstaking exercise. What we don't have at the moment, and what compiling with the committee and the relevant agencies, is what has happened, what has come in following that intervention. Has all the money been recovered? Who has not paid? I think in the next couple of days, NEITI will be ready with the report. But we will also not be we speak to facts and data. We will rely on our 2021 report to also
to give
us exactly where we are. Yes, we do hope that our 2021 report, which we intend to release this year, will be ready with the specifics on what has happened. But so far, so good in terms of response. And I do think that our intervention in that area has also raised awareness within the companies that the need to pay taxes and royalty and all revenues due to government are certain when due. That time has come, and we will follow it up to its logical conclusion. Currently, we have also raised alarm on those who are owing in the solid mineral sector.
Yes, I was coming to that, because you have a solid minerals report.
Yeah, sure.
Report too, and the fiscal allocation as well as the statutory disbursement report. So can we talk about that?
Well, for the solid mineral sector, it's a sector that is underdeveloped, and most of activities there are artisanal miners. We only have two notable players in that sector currently: the Dangote Cement, and the Dangote refineries and Dangote Cement, and then a Boa Group, and another company that is very strong in gold mining somewhere in Osho State. Those are the three key examples that are. So our complete disillusionment in the way and manner we have ignored, underfunded our solid mineral sector is a new challenge we are facing currently. The revenues from solid mineral sector at the moment do not in any way represent the potentials in the sector. Currently, the solid mineral sector contributes less than 1% to our GDP, exactly 0.18% to our GDP. And our report there doesn't inspire any confidence. We have been working closely with the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. We appreciate their challenges. That ministry needs to be funded, and we have made recommendations. And one of our recommendations is that they need to be urgently, we need to float a state-owned enterprise to lead, to drive investment in the solid mineral sector, as you have in the oil and gas. No matter how, whatever you say, the role of NNPC in galvanizing energy, resources, and manpower and investment in the oil and gas industry cannot be overemphasized. We need such very strong SOE currently in the solid mineral sector. There is none. So currently, the indebtedness in the solid mineral sector are more on the failure to remit, to pay licensing fees. Not necessarily in terms of taxes and royalty, because not much is going on there. The revenues we reported as a marginal increase there is just nothing that to anywhere for anybody to be happy about. We think we need to do more to support the solid mineral sector, to support investment in the sector through policy interventions and the strategic policy, deliberate policy support to the Ministry of Mines and Development. A lot of training need to go on in terms of raising the capacity of even the officials and the staff in that area. There's a roadmap that was developed, which NEITI was part of, the solid minerals roadmap. What we are not able to assess at the moment is the status of implementation. That's why our next target under the 5-year strategic plan that NEITI has just developed is now to focus much more aggressive attention to raise national and international attention on the solid mineral sector, because the solid mineral sector represents more than 200% of what we see in the oil and gas. Every nook and cranny of Nigeria is something. Solid, but what we see now is illegal mining, and most of these illegal miners neither pay taxes nor royalty, are responsible to nobody, and they're all over they're almost overwhelmed.
So many leakages.
Yes, and this illegal mining also has implication to our current security problems we're dealing with. So there is just need for comprehensive, massive reforms similar to what is going on in the oil and gas as underpinned by the Petroleum Industry Act.
Okay. Now, you brought me back to the oil and gas. I would like to talk about the crude oil theft, because it was also in that report, and startling figures too, at least the ones you were able to get, about $2 billion. What we mean is that the oil that is stolen, the oil with a thief that has no, for those watching and don't understand what we're talking about, $2 billion worth of oil theft. How do you think that we can tackle this menace? How?
Well, the case of oil theft is the amount you are just mentioning is simply figures supplied by 6 companies. The oil and gas report was covered by 69 companies that paid royalty in excess of $5 million. Were covered by the oil and gas industry, but only 6 companies volunteered to give figures in what they were able to what they lost an oil theft, and that's the figure you see here. 39.16 million barrels were stolen, were lost, either stolen or or lapses or lost, just not accounted for. And then that represents about 44.73 million.
So it just disappeared.
Disappeared. So, and this, if you now use this figure and look at the entire 69 companies, the figure will be more, And this happens even as we speak. So I think it's more of a security issue. NEITI's mandate does not really give us the power to either to arrest or to prosecute. So stealing as it is, and as the name represents, is a criminal offense. So this is much more something that security agencies, needs to rise up to. And we have made our recommendations. These are not issues you begin to discuss in public.
Okay, now with what you've just said, are you working in collaboration with EFCC? If you are, tell me how. If you are not, is NEITI also taking a look at that? Because they're also part of economic and financial crimes, as it were. Stealing is stealing.
Yes, but if you see we work with in collaboration with agencies, but we also look at where our mandate starts. Our job is to provide this information and data in the public domain. We believe that those whose responsibility it is directly to take up these issues will do so in no distant time. We've made our recommendations, and our recommendations are so specific on what we think needs to be done. This, like I said, is a security issue. Our relationship with EFCC, ICPC, and Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit also comes within this area, but it's not something I'll begin to discuss here. But I know that a lot of thinking are going on because it's a huge problem. It's a very huge problem.
And it's huge money loss.
It's a huge money loss. And most agencies, most of the companies that are currently faced with this problem are divesting from the downstream and midstream. They are going upstream, and it's not all of them that can afford it, because upstream upstream investment is very, very capital intensive. And for each divestment, there are lots of jobs. There are lots of capacity, there's lots of revenue, and there's lots of investment opportunities. So it's not in the best interest of the sector for this to happen. So that's why tackling oil theft, crude losses, is a major problem that requires more than NEITI's intervention.
Okay, let's talk about the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit, I guess. Can you just break that down a bit? I guess that should deal with how states or how the revenues are being...
You're very correct. The fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit is the report that follows the money.
Yes.
It follows the money. When you have said, okay, we have this, companies have paid and the government has received, has been swept into the federation account and shared. According, the next report says, what did we use the money for? We track the revenues that are received by the statutory recipients. There are agencies that receive this extractive sector money directly from federation account. One of them is NDDC, the other one is TED Fund, the other one is PDTF, and you also have a local content development board, and so on. And then there are states that also share a percentage of this oil revenue in terms of derivation, and there are 9 of those states. And there are also, this derivation has also been extended to solid minerals. So what that report did was to identify, in no particular order, but through case study approach, some of the states within the zones and across the country that we could use as samples, as case studies for that report. So 9 states were selected, and then it also covered all the agencies that receive revenue from the federation account directly as a result, either percentage of, for NDDC, Local Content Development Board, TED Fund, PDTF, and Ecological Fund.
Funds.
All those were covered by the report. We have launched the report, but we are releasing that report officially on Sunday.
Okay, so that's breaking.
Sunday against Monday.
Sunday against Monday.
Yes.
So we'll look forward to it, and
Yes,
hopefully
sure.
when we go through it, I hope to have you here again to look at that. But let's take a look at this issue of fuel subsidy. I can't let you go without talking about fuel subsidy, petroleum subsidy, and what NEITI thinks about it. Because I know also when PIB was being put together, NEITI was also part of it in some way. What do you think about this fuel subsidy? That's one question. The second question is, I know at the time when you came in, NEITI was a bit analog. Let me put it as simple as that. What efforts have been done if you haven't moved to automation now? Okay, just take that two first.
Well, on subsidy, it's a national debate. But like for us in NEITI, we speak to figures, we speak to data. The data that NEITI has from in the last 10 years is not something that we're not happy about in terms of how much more we have paid. We have that figure, what we have paid in 10 years as subsidy. But currently in the current report we just released, total subsidy claims, 133.74 billion. Total claims, out of which we have paid 106 billion currently. And Nigeria is still owing 26.74 billion in terms of subsidy. This is for a single year. Now, how does this affect the poor? So, from day one, without sentiment, we had said that from our 2008 report, we said, advised the government should remove subsidy. That's our position. Government should remove subsidy. But what we have no control over is how will government remove subsidy? What will be
what would the government use the money to do?
What will be the impact to society? There are other agencies that have to think through this. But we have seen this. This is not sustainable. And every day we get convinced that our position remains sacrosanct.
Okay.
So we have made this recommendation that subsidy needs to be removed, because when subsidy removed, the pain will be temporal and it will stabilize. And currently, during this last few years scarcity, you see people buying fuel for 800 naira per liter. But you see, we're also aware that our refineries need to work. Because when government removes subsidy, we don't want our hope and aspirations and our destiny to be completely in the hands of marketers. But government is also concerned about the social impact on citizens. So it's a two-way thing. Ours is to bring out the information, make recommendations, but the final decision of how and when subsidies should be removed, and if subsidies should be removed at all, lies squarely in the hands of government.
Of the government. Okay.
It's the government that has to make that decision. Because they have more information than we do. Ours is from the point of view of our work. But government has a larger picture. The social, the cultural, the political and several other considerations which any leader will look at before making a good decision. So, the issue of
the issue of automation. I'm looking at my time. And
well, automation is, when I was appointed, we had that challenge. Gathering data was manual, and we had to be chasing companies. And in this era of insecurity and the high cost of air travel and high cost of things, we felt that to be more efficient, we needed to quickly automate our process. There was some preliminary job done by the time I came in, but it was completely at very decimal level. So we took that project up and we have completed it. We have launched it.
Okay.
Our 2020 report, 2021 report we're about to commence will be digital.
Okay.
And we have automated our process. We thank the World Bank. We thank
the World Bank assisted.
Yeah, the World Bank assisted
NEITI.
us with that project. We thank them very well, because we work with them with an international NGO called Development Gateway, also based in Dakar. They were also working with us, and we have completed that project. And I also thank my staff, because the bulk of the job was done by NEITI staff, working with the consultants. So we have launched it on the 15th of March. On the 7th of March. And what we are waiting for now is a series of trainings that has to happen for how the agencies, the companies, and can be able to use the system, including our staff. Okay. One of those trainings will be happening this month. But by the time we commence we'll go into the field for 2021 report, our system, the NEITI Audit Management System, which is the NEITI Automation Project, will be deployed. But we may be doing that also with some analog aspect, just in case, because it's more or less like a test run now. Test run. Yeah, okay. But we have no bulk of the job will be through automation. And the companies are very happy with it. And our government agencies are also very happy. Of course, they will be happy because they are already automated. Yes.
Okay. Finally, as we round up, the disclosure of companies. Many years ago, in fact, when the present finance minister, who was the NEITI boss then, I had the opportunity to interview her. I interviewed her then when she was NEITI boss. And I remember she told me, disclosure companies don't really willingly disclose to NEITI. Have we seen that? Have we seen an improvement?
Well, for now, again, we base my response on data. 95%, that's 94.6% compliance where we had, and that's not bad.
That's like almost 100.
Yeah, only 6 companies. Only 6 companies failed to partially complied. They supplied data, but they were not available to validate the data with the agencies. So that's the only thing. So, but what we have done was to move very fast to also strengthen sanctions, our ability to bite. So that's why we quickly signed MOU with the EFCC, the ICPC, and Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit. So any company that wants to take our intervention for granted, we have where to go. Maybe they will be able to, because it's more or less a financial crime. To fail to disclose. The law is very specific. But so far, we have been working with the companies under the Companies Forum, which we established, and we also work with the OPTS, the Oil Producing Trade Section of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce. And the civil society has been very, very strong with us, both local and international. And then government agencies too, the NNPC, the FIRS, the upstream, the commission, the relevant government agencies under what we call the IMTT, Inter-Ministerial Tax Team, that have also been working with us. Compliance has been very good. Okay. We want it to be stronger.
I want to say many thanks for joining us. We've had at least a few minutes of discussion.
Thank you.
And let's hope that it gets better from here.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Dr. Orji Ogbonnaya. Orji, who is the Executive Secretary of Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. That is what NEITI means. They've come up with reports. You've just heard him here. Another one will be launched, so I guess that we should be interested in what happens with revenue that will make oil and gas, agriculture, solid minerals, even fisheries. Just like he said, we should be interested because this is our own common wealth. I'll see you all again tomorrow, God willing, with another guest, another topic. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye for now.